guys, Ken here, your thrifty apprentice. Happy Thursday everyone, and welcome to a special video release. In today's video we are going to be jumping ahead to October, and we are going to be painting this sort of haunted, muted, moody, water soluble scene, because I am working on designing a journal for the month of October, which is Inktober. Inktober's 31 days. Is going to concentrate basically like every other challenge on making you create, but specifically geared towards ink, whether it's water soluble ink, alcohol ink, whether you use watercolors and ink together to do ink and wash. The point is to use ink, and I am hoping to be able to participate in all 31 days. Now, if you guys remember previously, for World Watercolor Month, which was back in July, I did design a journal specifically for that challenge. Let's see if I have it here. Here we go. This one. And this is what I painted in for World Watercolor Month. Well, now I'm doing one specifically for Inktober. In order to pull this off, I used 100% cotton watercolor paper. This is New York Central Art Supply. I think it's really cool, and the 5x7 block is convenient. I'm also going to be using Derwent Graphitint Pan Paint Set. I actually like these, despite the fact that they will travel just a bit, especially if used in a sketchbook. I still like them a lot. I've discovered that if you mix them with a regular watercolor, they are less likely to smudge on the opposite page when enclosed in a sketchbook. I'm also going to be using Boku Undo Isumi watercolor set. This is a Japanese watercolor set. This is the shadow line. So these colors are shadowed with black in all of them. They are really, really cool. I think I'm going to invest in some of the other sets that they have, because I find that I really like those big pans like that to get brushes into. And this is more like an ink, I'll be honest, than it is. So, and one of the reasons I wanted to use it, and we're also going to be using Genze Tenbai, or Tambi, however you decide to say it. And of course, you guys know my opinion about these is that they're more like a water-soluble ink, opaque, almost gouache. I really love them for crafting and card making. But they paint out really well in doing a regular composition as well. So we're going to be using all of that. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the video. We're going to jump right into the purplish black, mixing it with juniper, and we're going to use that to start the base and the sky after wetting the background. This paper is really great, and because of those Boku Undo paints mixed into the Graphitint, they actually have an amazing flow to them. I'm also using the bluish black mixed with the dark indigo from the Graphitint to add in the blue. I'm throwing in a little of the cold gray from the Graphitint set, and I'm going to make it darker on the right-hand side, and then on the left-hand side. I'm going to attempt to anyway. I feel like it adds to the whole spookiness of it. I'm going to bring those colors on down into the water, and be sure to concentrate on the sides in order to give the emulation that, you know, it is actually water. Sometimes I try to leave a lot of the whites. In this case, I didn't leave too many, so I am eventually going to have to go in and try to scrub, especially the highlight for the moon out, but we'll get to that shortly. After I basted that in and gave it time to dry, I'm actually going to move on to painting in the actual scape there. Now, you see that outline? That outline is going to be available on Patreon, starting with yellow level membership. But I'm actually going to end up changing this composition just a little bit as I paint. As I was painting, I saw a way to make it a little bit more spooky than I originally had it. So this is the direction that I'm going to go in. I switched over from the Boku Undo to using Genze Tenbai. Now, those two paint sets actually remind me a lot of each other. They're both Japanese watercolors, if I'm not mistaken. And they are made by two different companies. They're two different brands, but they perform so similarly that I feel like they work really well in conjunction with each other. The Graphitint was just added to help me get more of a moody scene. Okay, so now what I have done is I mixed the ultramarine no, I'm sorry, the Prussian blue from the set with the dark indigo, and I used it to base in the mountains. Although eventually I went back over those mountains with a mixture of ultramarine and burnt sienna from the paint set itself. That's also the color that I used to mix in with the cool gray or the cold gray from the Graphitent set in order to paint in the tower and the house that was connecting to it. Now, there was originally supposed to be two big bundles of bushes in front of both structures, but as I said earlier, as I was painting, I found a way to kind of make it a little bit more leaning towards what I was looking for. So I'm going to paint in these hills that are going to kind of roll and encase the structures in the back. It added distance to the painting, and it made it look like there was several layers. Now, I went on and painted in the top of that tower and the top of the little house that was connected to it. And I thought to myself, I'm going to throw a cross up here just to give it a little bit more of that spooky feel. Maybe that's a cathedral or something of that nature. Here I'm lifting out highlights, or I'm trying to lift out highlights for the moon. And I'm also going to lift out any excess paint that carried over from the background into the moon itself. Then I'm going to shade the moon a little bit with burnt sienna and ultramarine, and then kind of dot in some cratery looking images. Once I had that completed, it was time to jump into doing shadows, and I'm just using that mixture of burnt sienna, ultramarine, Prussian blue, and then the cold gray from the Graphitent set, all mixed together in order to put in those shadows. And I'm being sure to reflect my tower into the water just to give it a little bit more excitement. Now, you're going to see me go back and forth basing in shadows. And once I had my shadows where I wanted them in my water, I moved on and adding the stars to the sky. I'm going to cover my composition to protect everything but the sky. And then I'm using bleed-proof white on a number 2 round synthetic brush in order to sprinkle those stars in. Next, I'm taking that same bleed proof in order to create my waterline and to give the refractions in the water, especially the ones that you would get on a night that had a moon like this. I'm going to throw highlights in all over the place in order to get the feel that I want. And then I'm going to really work on those mountains to make sure that I get that rolling hill feel, like each top is hit with that beautiful moonlight. More moonlight showing on the hill directly in front of the structure than on anywhere else. And that's pretty much going to bring it to an end, guys. I'm going to throw some bats in the background because I was thinking, how can I make this just a little bit more spooky? And I thought bats would be the way to do it. So I threw in 3 at different intervals, at different sizes, to make them look like they were at different distances from us. After that, I signed the painting, and that's going to wrap this on up. Okay, guys, there you have that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. Hope maybe somebody paid it along or gave you some inspiration and idea to spin off on your own direction and go ahead and get started on those wonderful Halloween drawings that you're going to be doing. This was part 1. There will be a part 2 video coming out on Sunday in which you will see me do the actual construction of the journal, in which this will be used for the cover. So I invite you guys to come on back and see that. I think it's a pretty neat journal, and maybe you'll like it. Maybe you'll try to create it yourself. So don't forget to give the video a thumbs up if you picked up on anything, saw anything, or just simply enjoyed watching and hanging out. Please give the video a thumbs up. Sharing is caring. Maybe someone else would love to see the video. If you're new to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe. If you're returning and you haven't subscribed yet, please go ahead and subscribe. That notification bell, if you decide to hit it, is going to let you know when new content comes out, which is normally 3 times a week, Wednesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. The video description, you're going to find links for the Facebook group where all artists and crafters are welcome. I'm going to start trying my best to do more posting in there on a daily basis. You're going to find a link for the Etsy shop, which is stocked as I finish things and I get things done. There's a link for Patreon, which currently has memberships, and I have got the actual shout outs for members coming up on tomorrow's video, which will be Friday. That's when I'll do shout outs every week. And you can also find the most recommended product list where you can find some really great quality products that are budget friendly and will not break the bank if you decide it's something you want to add to your art collection. Thank you guys so much for joining me, and remember, as I tell you at the end of every video, just keep painting and crafting.